Hey, welcome back to ALECTV. I'm Tom McLaughlin, and I'm here with Vinnie Vernuccio from the Mackinac Institute. And so last we talked, this was around this time last year, we were talking about how Janus had just been passed, and we were getting ready to take a look at what would happen in the States. Now we're starting to see the first kind of inklings of what's happening. So what can you tell me about what's going on?
Well, workers across the country are exercising their rights. They're exercising the First Amendment right to freedom. Some are staying in the unions, and a lot more are saying, you know what, I don't support this union's politics, so I'm going to opt out. I don't think they're doing a good job, and I don't want to be forced to pay them. And that was the heart of the Janus decision. It said that public employees across the country had a First Amendment right to choose whether or not to pay the union at the workplace, essentially giving them right to work.
Right. So since then, we've actually seen a kind of an alarming trend, a spate of states that are trying to pass what we call anti-Janus legislation. You want to dig into that a little bit for me?
Yeah, I mean, it's really disheartening. What we've seen is, the usual suspects, states like California, New York, New Jersey, and several others have passed legislation trying to trap public employees in and into paying the union. And they come in several different flavors. A lot of them are omnibus bills where all of these are included, some of them are separated out. But essentially the themes that we're seeing are first, decreased access for the public servants, but increased access for the unions. So let me tell you how this works. Literally in the same bill, state legislators are passing things saying that you and I can't contact our public servants to talk about their rights and tell them that they have a First Amendment right not to pay the union, but literally in the same bill, they'll say the unions are entitled to home addresses, cell phones, personal contact information. So we can't even contact them at work, but the unions can go talk to them at home. I mean, you talk about chutzpah.
That's unbelievable.
So that's kind of one of the first ones. Some of the more heinous things are these things called window periods. So essentially saying that the only time a public employee can opt out is 30 to 90 days or 30 to 60 days prior to their anniversary day. So essentially after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. And it's individualized for the start date. So you can't even ask the person working next to you, hey, when can I exercise my rights?
So it just seems very arbitrary in that case.
Well, what they're trying to do is making it as difficult as possible.
Right.
And there is a slew of other things. We're seeing a rise in what's known as release time bills, or public employees getting their taxpayer-funded salary, being able to do union work, in some cases full-time union work, on the job while we're paying them as taxpayers.
Wow.
So increase in release time. We're also seeing bills, now none has passed yet, we'll see what happens shortly, of states saying, oh, okay, you can't force public employees to pay you, so guess what, we'll just write you a check. And we've seen bills in a couple states starting to allude to that, a couple lawmakers in a couple states. Thankfully, none has passed yet, but we'll see what happens next session.
Right. So as people who want to defend worker freedoms, how do you go about kind of fighting these sorts of things?
Oh, well, first and foremost, this is about choice. It's about the First Amendment, it's about freedom of speech, it's about public employees saying, yeah, this union's doing a good job, yes, I want to support them, or yet, no, they're not, and I should have a right to not support that union. So, that's the first thing. It's about the public employees.
Of course.
There's other issues, like one of the other things the unions are doing are saying, well, we can't force you to pay us dues, but if we represent you in grievance hearings or something like that, we're going to charge you for that. Which, okay, you may say, all right, that makes sense, until you read the fine print. Guess what? That public employee has no other choice. They're forced to go through the union.
Wow.
So I have no choice. The union still gets a veto over what I want, and now I'm stuck paying them. So we've seen bills like that pass in a couple areas. I think that's actually a half measure, but it's leading towards something good. In fact, ALEC has model public policy, such as the Employee Choice Act and a couple others, that say that workers should have the right to fully opt out of union representation. Now, if those bills were married with something that, like workers' choice, which is in those bills, which gives those public employees the ability to say, you know what, I think I'm better off on my own, I want to negotiate my own contract, I want to represent myself on grievance hearings, that's not too bad. But the fact is that the unions want to have their cake and eat it too. You're forced to accept my representation, and then I'm going to force you to pay for it.
Wow. So yeah, there's some really interesting developments going forward on the worker freedom front and on the Janus front. So it's really interesting to hear about that. Well, wish you guys the best of luck going forward, and thanks for spending some time here with me today talking about this stuff.
Hey, thanks for having me on. This was fun, as
Absolutely,
always.
yeah, as always.
Thank you.
Hey, keep it here for ALECTV.